Hello, welcome to another video installment on my channel. This week we saw the release of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 on Blu-ray. Is it worth owning or even renting? I would say so, but let's see. It may not have been up to par with other Marvel films released this year, such as Captain America's Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, or even X-Men Days of Future Past. I'll admit this has its flaws, but it does have its merits as well. Let's start with the good things. First of all, Andrew Garfield is great as Spider-Man. I say great as Spider-Man because when he's in the suit, he really soaked it up and had a blast in it. Peter Parker, on the other hand, we'll get to that later. Emma Stone was also great as Gwen Stacy as she reprised her role from the first film. Newcomers included Dane DeHaan as Green Goblin and Harry Osborn, and then Jamie Foxx as the villain Electro. I felt the action and special effects were exceptionally well done in this movie, especially when Jamie Foxx becomes Electro. You know, you really get a sense that he is a blue man that can do this and shoot electricity out of his fingers and stuff. And the battle scenes between him and Spider-Man, the final showdown and then the Times Square showdown were the two big set pieces in this film, and wow, were they done really well. I believe I saw this in 3D when it was in theaters, and I really got a sense you were like swinging with Spider-Man when he was swinging through the city, you know, and they did all these flips, and he did all this kind of thing when he was on his webs and all that kind of thing. And then again, Electro's electricity, it felt like it was coming at you watching it in the theater. I also might be in the minority here, but I actually kind of liked that Paul Giamatti wasn't in the movie very much. I know a lot of people thought he should have been in there the whole time, but I really didn't care. I mean, the Rhino, when you think about it, isn't really a serious villain, so him not being in there except for the beginning and the end, I think on the Blu-ray they described his role as a bookend thing, so that kind of makes sense. And I believe he's going to be in the Sinister Six movie, which is what they seem to be setting up. And then I think I remember him saying something, Paul Giamatti saying something eventually about possibly being in the third movie, which has now been pushed back to 2018 from its original 2016 release date. Now those are the things I really enjoyed. Now there were some things in here that needed work, such as, remember I mentioned before that Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man but not such a great Peter Parker? Well, the thing is with that is he couldn't really decide what kind of Peter Parker he wanted to be in the movie. Did he want to be whiny and emotional like Tobey Maguire in the original series? Did he want to be a punk kid, like all cool and everything? Did he want to be smart and nerdy? They couldn't make a decision, so it seemed to be it was more of a combination of things, and that's not really the point of Peter Parker. He's supposed to be a social outcast, a nerd, that kind of thing. Nobody pays attention to him. And then once he becomes Spider-Man, you know, he becomes this person that everybody wants to be like, and he becomes popular in the city to most people. But here, it didn't really work too well in this new rebooted franchise. The story in this movie is the main thing that bothered me because there really wasn't one. It's like there was multiple stories. The first movie had a really basic plot. It was boy meets girl, boy gets bit by a genetically enhanced spider, boy gets superpowers. Villain in the movie tries to turn the entire city into a bunch of lizards, boy stops villain, that's it. Now some films really benefited from having multiple villains, multiple subplots and plots. But here it didn't work too well because it got to be like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 where it just caused problems and issues, slowed it down. Then you got 20 minutes of Goblin and just like 20 minutes of Venom in Spider-Man 3. You see the correlation? The plots included Peter trying to find out what happened to his parents, him seeing Gwen's dead father from the first film everywhere, Electro and his plan, which didn't really materialize until like the last 15 to 20 minutes of the film, and that was kind of irritating because, you know, he's the main villain. We should have gotten a sense what his plans were, and then all of a sudden the bad guy wants his blueprints, and then he wants his blueprints back and wants to take over the city all of a sudden, instead of just wanting to be noticed, which seemed to be his main thing. And then Gwen trying to get into Oxford, that was another subplot. And then the romantic plot, that needed to just end. I mean, I get it, they're together, but we want to see Spider-Man kill some things, or not kill some things, blow things up, swing around. We don't want to be seeing that for half the movie. The main reason we're having multiple villains anyway in this movie is because they're trying to set up Sinister Six, and they were trying to build up to the big scene at the end of this movie. Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but if you've seen the movie, read the comic book, you know what I'm talking about. The Goblin showing up at the end and not really doing too much except for that one big thing I'm not going to talk about. It's kind of annoying too. I mean, to be fair, there are some deleted scenes only on the Blu-ray. You only get deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, which do show some expanded things he did after becoming the Goblin, but why those were cut out is anyone's guess. Finally, I thought the runtime was kind of ridiculous too. It was 141 minutes, which that's typical of a movie, but This one didn't have enough action. It had more, like I talked about before, romantic scenes and talking, exposition, but that would have been fine if there was more of that action stuff, but it wasn't Michael Bay territory. It wasn't 165-minute Transformers Age of Extinction long, thankfully. And the pacing was good, which I thought was really nice. So the movie moved along really well, except for some of those scenes where it slowed it down a bit. It didn't get to the next point. So what are the special features on the Blu-ray, you might ask? Well, as I mentioned before, there's 20 to 25 minutes of deleted scenes. Now, sadly, they don't contain any of the Mary Jane stuff that was cut before the movie came out, or the Uncle Ben scenes. But there is one scene in there where Peter meets a character you long thought was dead, but it turns out he's actually alive. And if you're a fan of Peter Jackson, there's a musical score in there you might just recognize. There's also a making-of featurette, which runs about 90 to 100 minutes if you watch it all the way through at once. Or you can watch it bit by bit if you don't want to watch certain sections, because some sections are more interesting than others. There's also an Alicia Keys music video, which is an odd choice for a Marvel film, which the song featured in the end credits of the main movie, It's On Again, featuring Kendrick Lamar, and then Pharrell Williams, and then Hans Zimmer is the composer, and he's in the video as well. So is the movie worth watching? Well, I own it, but a rental will do. I mean, it was entertaining, exhilarating, and fun, and hopefully the delay into 2018 for the third film will help Mark Webb, no pun intended, flesh it out, the characters and story, and all that kind of thing. Because I feel that this movie could have been even better than it was, except for it was rushed out. It was only under 2 years since the first one came out. First one was released in July of 2012. This one was released in May of 2014, so it was about 22 months, and that's not a long enough time, I think, to put a movie together. It needs at least 3 years, unless you want to be like Saw or something, and then just make the same crap over and over again. The rushing out also hurt it critically and financially. This is the lowest rated Spider-Man film on Rotten Tomatoes. You'd think it'd be Spider-Man 3 from the Raimi trilogy, but no, it's this one. It was also the lowest grossing Spider-Man film. So if they take their time on the next one, we may see that change and actually see some more creativity come out, because there's lots to do in the Spider-Man universe. I mean, like Electro, he has a completely different look from the comic. Jamie Foxx, they painted him blue and then added in digital, electricity everywhere. I thought that was a really creative representation of that character. I enjoyed The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but not everyone will. My final score for this movie is an 8 out of 10, mostly because of the story. It would be a little bit higher if not for that. I thought the acting was mostly good, except for when Andrew Garfield was Peter Parker. And the visual effects were fantastic, as I said before, and I love how this Blu-ray has most of the deleted scenes, except for the ones that probably no one will ever see, with Mary Jane. She was supposed to be in this movie, but they cut her out. I'm not surprised now because how long it is. So anyway, thanks for watching my review, and I'll see you next time with my next video.